Hi, I'm Tom. This video is the next in a mini-series where I show you how I speed paint the most common Space Marine chapters in a Grim Dark Style. This only took 30 minutes to achieve and could easily be used to batch paint a whole army. This time I'm doing Imperial Fists. First step is to build the model. I'm using an Assault Intercessor. Boobity boobity boop. I base my model black, but you can skip this step as we're going to start with a red base coat. I'm going to be using an airbrush for speed, but you could easily do this with spray cans and brushes. Why are you spraying it red? I can hear you screaming at me. Imperial fists are yellow. Well, I'm going to show you. Chill out, brah. The reason I'm using red is that weirdly enough it is the best choice to add depth of colour to the yellow. You could also use pink. The red or pink will sit in the shadows and give the yellow a depth and make the model pop. Little trick here, you can actually just use the air from the airbrush to help dry the paint quicker. I used the red and gave it a base coat until there was no black left. Once the red layer is dry, the next stage will be to add a white zenith or highlight directly from above. Just imagine the sun is shining above onto the marine, just think where would the light hit it? The aim of this is to leave red in the shadows and white on the panels facing up. It creates a transition from red to white. In this next stage, I use Imperial Fist contrast paint. Contrast paints are basically stains. They will turn anything white into the colour of the contrast paint. As you can see here, I'm adding thin layers, and where the red is, it is turned into a pink hue. On the day I was painting this, it was about 30 degrees Celsius, and my airbrush started spraying out water. You can see here, this happens when the cylinder has got condensation in, which often happens when it's humid, and it also ruins paint jobs. Thankfully, I'd already finished painting. I then used the same red from the base paint to paint the shoulder pad trim and the Aquila. This is in the theme of the third company Imperial Fists. You should try to be neat at this stage, but don't worry if you make any mistakes, I'll show you how to fix them later on. I then used the black paint to paint the armour joints, the sword and the bolt pistol and the holster. I then also used a metallic paint to paint the teeth of the chainsword, the hilt and also the bolter. I then used black paint to neaten up any mistakes I made. So any mistakes like this where I've gone over with the red paint can easily be painted over with white and then covered in the contrast paint again. It might take 2 coats, but it should blend in quite well. As you can see here, you can barely notice it. Then onto the eyes. I painted them white as a base colour, and then I used Hexwraith Flame to paint them green. Again, any mistakes you make can be neatened up with the yellow contrast paint. I also used this colour for the buttons in the forearm. Then on to decals. It's infuriating that Games Workshop brings out a codex for the Imperial Fists every year, and other codexes, but they don't include all the decals that you need for those models. I had to order a separate sheet to finish this model, as the right shoulder pads need black symbols. And these aren't included in any of the normal sheets. So once you have your decals, soak them in water one at a time until they come loose. I add a drop of water to the surface you're applying it to and then slide the decal across. I then use the brush to move it around and position it. So the fist goes onto the Marine's left shoulder and the battlefield roll goes onto the right shoulder along with its squad marking. Boobity boobity boop. After it's dry, I then use this microsol. What this does, it softens the decals and makes them conform to the shape that they're on. This includes curved surfaces. When it's all dry, I applied a matte varnish. I absolutely love the Colourforge one, I think it's the best. I then used my hobby knife to add some scratches and a bit of weathering to the decals. Then onto the weathering itself. So I apply streaking grime to the model. This is an enamel weathering paint. And what you do is you paint it all over the model, you let it dry, and then you clean it up with spirits, leaving some of the enamel behind. So I apply the grime and let it dry. It takes about 10 minutes, especially in this heat, or you could use a hairdryer to speed it up as well. And you can see when it's dried a little because the glisten goes from it. I then use mineral spirits, or white spirits as we call them here, and I clean off the grime using some makeup applicators or cotton buds or Q-tips. Just dip them into a bit of mineral spirit and then gently just dab away some of the grime, and you're leaving some of it in the recesses at the same time. Then you just let the spirit evaporate, and then it will look like this. Looks awesome. You could just stop here if you want, but I'm going to add a bit more to it. So I've got a pair of tweezers, tiny bit of sponge, and I'm going to add some extra weathering to it. So use the sort of damaged end of the sponge, and I'm using the streaking grime and I'm going to stipple on some battle damage. and dirt. And I'm aiming around the bottom of the legs and feet here, and some of the shoulder pads and higher up panels as well. There you go, it's sort of like chipping and a bit of splatter and on them as well. And I'm using this old cleaning toothbrush, dipping it in the streak and grime, and then just using it to flick some streak and grime across the model. And then again, I'm just using a slightly damp cotton bud with some spirits in it and cleaning up some of the big splodges. So I want the splodges to be around the lower half of the model. I then also stippled on some silver paint around the cutting edge of the chainsword. And then when it's dry, it'll look like this. You can tell here that some of the recesses still need a bit of sort of depth to them. I mean, need more of an outline. So I mixed up some oil wash. Boop. And applied this to the recesses. This is literally just some oil paint with a bit of mineral spirits on. Mix it up till it's about this consistency. And that's it. And use a brush, just dip it into the, sort of dab it into the recesses. I also added a simple base material to this, which is just some stones and sands from the beach, and painted the rim of the base black. This black oil stage really made the panels pop. It sort of goes into all the recesses. And I also put it on the base. It's mesmerising how it spreads out. Then I cleaned it up again with a slightly damp cotton bud. And that's it. That's the model finished. Let me know what you think in the comments. What would you do differently? What chapter do you think I should paint next? Please like the video and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos. If you want to support me further, I have an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, and please consider supporting me on Patreon, where you can get access to my new Discord server. Thanks to my current Patreon supporters, and special thanks to my latest Patreon supporter, Alexandra Biomas. Hail to you, Yompion. Thank you, bye.